I'm Vidyamala's sort of stand-in. I don't look at all like Vidyamala, and if you were expecting her, and you suddenly find you're looking at me, um, I'm actually a husband and co-founder of Breathworks. So just a warm welcome to everyone who's joining, and I'm pleased to be here with you. For those of you who were here last week, I've decided to change the ending of the session a little bit. I realised it was a bit abrupt when we ended last week, and I remembered that Vidyamala usually gave people a time to put things in the chat room, and she usually read them out, because often there's one person at least who's can't read because of their eyesight or not having, or they're blind. So she usually reads out everyone. I've always been a bit sort of worried about reading out, because I have to confess, or it's not a confession, it's just the fact that I'm mildly dyslexic. So reading out things, sometimes I get names wrong and words wrong. So just bear with me, and don't worry about it. I'm not. So I'll just get over my shyness and maybe read out the comments at the end of the session. So should feel like a bit less pressed in, but a bit more open session. Vidyamala feels it's very, and I agree with her, support that. It's very important having a community of practitioners. So this is what we are on a Tuesday night. It's also worth just mentioning that at Breathworks, there's a whole community of practice that takes place, which you can join for free if you go to the Breathworks website and look for community of practice. And there are other opportunities to practice with like-minded people, whether you're someone who's come through Breathworks to mindfulness or not. You're most welcome just to join that community of practice. And there are various courses and things connected with that, which you can also join in. And just lastly, a little bit of news. I, together with someone who was working with Vidyamala as a kind of publicising her a little bit more, I've created a new website for her. So if you wanted to have a look at it, it's www.vidyamala-birch@gmail.com. I'll just put that in the chat. I don't know why. You can just go there, and hopefully Vidyamala, when she comes back, she'll keep it up to date about what she's doing, things that she's participating in. So just put that in the chat box. So let's begin. Well, this afternoon, actually all day today, I've been on and off editing a recording that Vidyamala's done for a project that Breathworks doing for people with long COVID. And she did these recordings before she kind of disappeared. And I've been editing them. And the one I was editing today was about coming to your senses, or letting in the good, I think it was called. And listening to her voice telling me about the importance of coming in touch with your senses and opening up to what's pleasant in these difficult times really kind of, it stirred me up, and thinking, oh, maybe I could just share that with you this evening, and we could do a meditation around it. Just by way of just going into this, just a reminder for those of you who maybe not, who haven't done a Breathworks course or are fairly new to mindfulness, that in a way, mindfulness has been mainly about helping people who experience suffering. And I guess most people are here this evening because we're experiencing suffering in one way or another. There are all different types of suffering, of course, But usually you could categorize suffering into two general categories. One is the category that you have an experience that is unpleasant and you can't change it. So it could be, like, the most obvious one would be physical pain. If you had physical pain and you couldn't change it, you may try to change it with find a cure for it. If it's a headache, you may have taken medication or so forth. But some people, quite a lot of people, and certainly a lot of the people that come to Breathworks have had long-term chronic pain, severe chronic pain sometimes. And it's been a very, very interesting journey for me, who doesn't particularly suffer from chronic pain, just occasional migraines, but they don't last for so long. But just meeting people with a lot of pain and difficulties, and sort of coming to terms with the fact that some people are living with pain every minute of the day and sometimes of the night. So it's very, very difficult. And it's been very, very helpful to know that in many ways it is possible to help people to reduce some of the suffering. The suffering that you can't change, like pain or mental distress or grief, poverty, all those sort of things, you can pile on top, and we often do, another type of pain, which is something we can do something about, at least with a bit of practice. In the Breathworks, we usually, and various other mindfulness organizations, divide these into what you could call primary pain or suffering and secondary. And it's the secondary that is caused by a lot of things like ruminating on the first one. It happens because we don't like, of course we don't like pain. We don't want to let it in. We don't want to really acknowledge it's there. But it's it's all those strategies we use to keep it at bay and push away and pretend it isn't there that actually causes us more distress usually. And Vidyamala's written books on this, and very much from her own experience. And having known her and lived with her for many years, I can see how in her own life she is a very, very positive and happy person, but lives with severe chronic pain. And it's kind of a bit mind-boggling for someone like me to understand that. Well, I understand the theory of it. So ruminating on our difficulties, which is not is quite easy to slip into. The resistance, the resentment we would have towards our pain, seeing it as a kind of monster, is just something that's just not really helpful. And we can do, at least we can do something about it. We can reduce it to some degree, and it depends on how much we are willing to, how much effort we're willing to put into it. And it really, the effort is putting into it, is becoming more aware, more awake, more mindful of what's happening. And if you can notice, for instance, that you're worrying about something that may or may not happen, it's usually something about in the future that we all worry about things in the future, sometimes to good effect that we do something about fixing things that can be changed. But often if we're just ruminating over the past of what happened, which we can't do anything about actually, in some ways that's a kind of primary condition, can't change the past. But how we respond, how we react to any of these things is kind of down to us. It's down to our own ability to be more awake and realize that's what we're doing, and to decide, for instance, if we want to distract ourselves from the pain, the difficulties, that it's okay to do that. Of course, you don't want to sit with all your pain all the time, just focusing on it and becoming aware of it. But trying to pretend it's not there seems to be a very unhelpful strategy. And so what are we doing a lot in these breathing spaces is just developing more awareness. By formal meditation, usually by focusing on something, our mindfulness begins to grow. It's like a new faculty that opens up, the faculty of being able to learn a new language, or the faculty of being able to do anything better, really. And it is simply like that. It's a bit like playing an instrument. I started to learn the piano. Well, actually, I started to learn how to read music about 3 or 4 years ago, and then to play keyboard and piano. And what I discovered from that is there are two things you need to work on. One is technique, and the other is getting into the groove, as someone called it. As a jazz musician. I like that idea, and I kind of think of that about like mindfulness. Really, mindfulness is easy when you get in the groove of it. When you kind of think, oh yeah, mindfulness, let's just get in the groove. And you have to start off with a little bit of technique, and the technique is like maybe becoming aware of your body, becoming aware of your breathing, and then at some point you can stop doing all that. You can just be with your senses. You can be aware of what you're seeing, what you're hearing, and all that may happen outside of that formal practice. But even in the formal practice, you can do that to some degree. So that's what we're going to be doing this evening, is developing that faculty of mindfulness and just kind of coming home to ourselves. And if you notice any rumination, any wandering off on thoughts, that's what the mind does. It's quite normal. Don't worry about it. Don't give yourself a hard time. Just think, oh, that's what it's doing. Do I want to do that? No, I want to come back to just being with my myself, my sensations, and so on. So that's the 10-minute talk. And now for the 20-minute practice. And then after that, just be an opportunity for you to perhaps maybe at the end you could share one or two things that you might have got from the practice, even if it's that I've had a good sleep. So it really doesn't matter. It's just nice to know, get a little bit of feedback from people. You can put something in the chat box if you can, and I'll try to read them out. And you can stay for as long as you want. I'll probably close the room about 22 or something like that. I'm not going to go on all night, but just a little bit more time. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. So if you like to make yourself comfortable as you can be, and with a posture that helps you to feel more alert. And as I said, what we usually do with the technique is come back to our experience of the body. And some of you probably know this already, that when you start using your senses more, senses of touch, like sensations in the body, just sensation of touch. When you're not meditating, you'll be looking around and hearing things and smelling things and tasting things and so on. But in a formal meditation, you can close down a lot of the senses, but keep the sense of touch, of the kinesthetic sense of sensations in the body. So first of all, there's the body being drawn down by gravity. And one of the things that Vidyamala reminded me of in the talk I was editing, of letting go into gravity, is quite a pleasant experience. So we're not resisting gravity. If we're lying down, it's easy when we do a body scan, lying down, it's very easy to give into gravity. Sitting in a chair, it's relatively easy to give into gravity, or at least have a sense of that stillness of sitting, just keeping the body still, adjusting the body if you feel it will make you more comfortable. And if you're lying back and you're tending to fall asleep, you could keep your eyes open for a little bit, not focusing hard on anything, maybe just letting in light to remind you you're awake. It really doesn't matter if you fall asleep too, if that's what you need. And then just become aware of the kind of internal movements, the sensations that you have when you breathe. Well, the sensations that are there all the time, which are going unnoticed. So we're just turning our notice, our attention to the sensations in the body that come with breathing. And instead of me telling you what they are, maybe you could explore for yourself, what do I feel when I breathe? How do I know I'm breathing? What's telling me? What are the movements? Are there any movements? Are there any sensations? You could ask these sort of questions of yourself to sort of go more deeply into this awareness, paying attention to our breathing, our body breathing. And if you're someone who finds it quite difficult to do that, some people have a lot of trouble being aware of the breath. It usually it's to do with being aware of the front of the body, because that's where most of our organs are directed. You can perhaps just become aware of sensations in your back, maybe in the sort of middle lower back. You can find sensations which will be made by your breathing, actually, but you don't need to think too much about breathing. So you can just refocus on those sensations and just don't tell yourself you're breathing. Just feel maybe the back moving. It could be expanding, contracting slightly, muscles. You may even feel, if you're not leaning back against something, you're sitting sort of free, floating upright or lying down, you can sometimes feel your spine flexing. Flexes with a rhythm. And for those of you who are comfortable with awareness, your awareness of your breathing, you can go around the body and notice you don't have to stay in one place where you can feel the breath. The more interesting you make breathing, the easier it is to focus on it. The mind will go to where we're interested. So when our interest goes somewhere else, that's our mind gone somewhere else, you can say. So if you can make breathing really interesting, what's happening? What do I feel? Is it changing me? Is it pleasant? Is it unpleasant? Is it just kind of neutral? You don't need to think about the process of breathing. That would be the kind of rumination, the unnecessary bringing in the mind to use the cognitive reasoning faculty. You can just let that have a rest. Even I experience that as deeply satisfying. Sometimes images float into the mind. You can just let them float there. And then you can come back to the more kinesthetic experience of the sense of touch, the movement in the body. I think some people think this is strange when I say it, but if you allow yourself to smile when you do this, it usually brings a sense of joy and helps you to soften and refocus. Because if you find something that's giving you pleasure, it's much easier to stay with it. So even if you feel like smiling, or if you don't feel like smiling, just smile. Just move the muscles in your face and smile. And then just, if you want to, you can think, what a joke. How funny, just smiling makes me happy. Does it? I don't know. Don't worry about that, just do it. And if it does make you feel kind of more relaxed and more happy, just enjoy that too. Do it more. You don't need to grin. probably become tense if you do that. Just like a gentle smile. Oh yeah, breathing, coming home, letting go. Oh yes. Okay, and now I'm going to ask you to do something. You don't have to do this, but just be interesting to see what happens. I'd like you to recall the day that you've had. It may not have been a good day. It may be, some of you, just beginning. If you're in North America, for instance, or the middle of the day. But see if you can bring to mind at least one thing during the day that you would describe as pleasant. And if you think that was a terrible day, a horrible day, just cast your mind back over other things you do on days. Maybe it's drinking a cup of coffee, a cup of tea. I think most of us are in the northern hemisphere, so spring, summer's coming. Maybe you've seen a flower. Maybe you had a smiling, pleasant conversation with someone, or a telephone conversation, or even Zoom. Something you would describe as pleasant. So we're using our faculty of kind of recall, and it is possible to recall this sensation that we had when we enjoyed that cup of tea or coffee, or looked at the stars, sky, felt the sun, if the sun was shining on our body, whatever it might be. Just so you can kind of soak yourself in that, sort of allow it to flow. It's the same principle as if was to read a poem, and the poem brought with it an emotion. So we can kind of experience that experience through words. So we're going to do this through our own thoughts, just recalling. You don't need to tell yourself the story of a cup of tea. You just, what did it feel like? What was the direct experience of that, looking at a flower or drinking a cup of tea or making a cup of coffee, whatever you enjoyed. It could be just a tiny little thing. It could be stroking a dog or cat, or looking just out the window, seeing something happen, and it made you feel something pleasant. This is letting in the good. And see if you can just breathe with it and smile at it. recall, recalling, bringing it back. And if anyone's had a very difficult day and it's difficult to remember anything pleasant, then just acknowledging it's been a painful day, difficult day, struggled. And maybe just sitting here quietly breathing is a relief from that for just a few moments. And if your mind keeps wandering off and you start thinking of the whole contextual story, content, just bring your attention back to your breathing, the sensation of your breathing once again. And enjoy that. Just asking yourself, what am I doing now? Just checking that we're not wandered off into some other place, some story, some memory, worry, or just some kind of abstract thinking. Just coming back to direct experience, just being here now with all these other people in this virtual room, in this real community. The community isn't virtue, the community is real, and we're all partaking of that. That may bring a smile to you. Just breathing, each of us breathing together. Okay, so that's almost the end of the session. So if you want to just move your body around a little bit, just waking up a little. So it'd be nice to hear from some of you, how if you got something from that practice or anything happened, Don't need to write very much, just it was fun, smiled, didn't do much for me. Whatever. You put it in the chat box, I'll see if I can read it out. Very relaxing and helped with my pain. Lovely, thank you. I sat here with taste on my tea and the sun on my skin. Was nice to dwell on a good feeling. My first time, I must go, though, as I have an appointment at 7:30. I shall enter it with a smile. The notion of a communal smile is intriguing. A great sense of inner warmth and peace. Being part of Breathworks community is one of my smartest life choices. This does indeed make me smile. Lovely session, first one. We'll do it again. Thank everyone for this precious time here. Felt senses connecting within, feeling flow and ease and warmth. I thought of a cup of tea I had in the sunshine today. Very comforting. What a difference it makes to smile. The reflections of a moment in my joy. I'm just having to stop the chats going out of my, they're coming in so fast I can't read them. What was up to? Thinking of everyone breathing together made me smile. Glad you chose to speak to groove. I don't often think about meditation and groove, and I'm a musician, also like smiling during this. Oh, that's good. The sun, felt the sun and saw the garden growing, lovely feeling of warmth. It was lovely, really enjoyed the sense of community. I thought of the scent of oil seed rape flowers when I was on my bicycle. The connection with everyone during the practice is its own unique balm and ease. I still have a peaceful smile on my face, thank you. Very nourishing after a busy day, thank you. Enjoyed breathing along my spine and especially enjoyed the pause at the end of the breath. It went quickly in a good way. Sad it was over. I enjoyed the smiling. Thank you. Had a sort of conscious awakened dreaming with several different images, starting by the research of the pleasant event of the day. The smiling added a sense of different presence. If you think I'm having difficulty reading, it's partly because I'm mildly dyslexic and partly because the text keeps jumping. A little girl's delight that I had saved her a patch of daisies to make a chain. Oh, lovely. Yes, music and meditation are so aligned. Love that you mentioned it. Thank you all for being here together. You made us both smile, and I had pleasure seeing my dog's tail wag when I came home. Oh, I'm also a musician, and it's interesting to think of being in the groove when meditating. Lovely resting, letting go with an image, a memory of the smell of hawthorn blossom. Thank you. I sat in the light of the sunset, smiling during the practice. Thank you, Sona. It's like the back home. It's like back home with my friends, nourishing ourselves together. I like the right virtual room and the real community. Okay, well, I'm going to unmute you all, if I can remember how to do that. And you can just, say goodbye to everyone. How do I do that now? Let me get rid of the chat and put...
I've sorted it, so don't worry. I just allowed people to unmute.
You can unmute yourselves, actually, I think.
Thank you, Sona. Very
Yes,
nice.
okay.
Thank
Thanks,
Thank you
Sona.
very much. It
Thank
was
you.
great.
Thank you very much.
Good night, everyone.
Anna, thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Thank
It's just
you,
not-
everybody. Thank you all.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Well, thanks, Sona.
Bye,
Bye,
Sona.
everyone. Bye, Ollie.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Got to just put a big smile.
Bye,
Okay, here
Keep
we go.
smiling.
So great.
Smile and wave. Smile and
Bye.
wave.
Bye.
Bye,
Thanks, Sona.
Thank you, Sona.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Sona.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Big
Bye.
smiles.
See you next week.
Good. Yeah, I'll be back.
Bye.
Yeah.
Well done with the weeding out. It was spot on.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to close the room now, if that's all right with you. And I hope to be here next week. If I'm not, it'll be the week after. Yeah.
Thank you.
Will you be here next week or someone else?
There's a possibility I may not be here, but I'm waiting to hear of time. But it'll be Ollie if I'm not here. He'll be here. So, but if I'm still at home, I'll definitely be here, and I'll be here most weeks, I think. Yeah. So,
Okay. It will be mostly you.
yeah, until July, then Vidyamala will be back.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. But yeah, sorry. Yeah, it's mostly me.
It's good. For me, it's
Oh,
good.
it's okay.
I wasn't asking for that with that intention. I'm happy.
I'm so pleased to hear that, Stefano.
True.
Okay. Bye for now, then.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Just got to make sure I close the room, actually.